Welcome back to the second talk of this session. Again, before we start, I want to highlight the chat. So if you have any questions, feel free to pass these questions in the chat window next to the stream. In this talk, Gert van Petteren, I'm sorry if I pronounced it wrong, will show you how rendering software can make your life easier. Gert has more than 25 years of experience in advising on document-centric processes in different industries, with commercial experience in delivering electronic document management, information management, and content rendering solutions. He's CEO at DocShifter, the proud father of Free, and a passionate e-biker. And with this, I will turn over to Gert.
So yes, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for the introduction, Jens, and thank you very much for joining our session here today. As pointed out by Jens, my name is Gert van Petteren. I'm the CEO at DocShifter, and I'm not alone today. I'm actually joined by two valued colleagues, Bavette, who is our VP of Diversity. She is an Australian Shepherd, and she only joined the company 2 months ago. And next to her is Vitas. She's our VP of Physical Activity. I'll be sharing some insight around the impact of modern rendering technology in life sciences. But let me start off by thanking the whole Lorenz team, Raoul, and the team for the opportunity to contribute to their wonderful event. Now, in the next 20 minutes, we will share what we've learned from our customers in life sciences in the area of document rendering. Over the course of these last years, we've been involved in many projects all across the globe in both large and small pharma. We will summarize what we've seen, existing processes, the challenges and pitfalls, and how we believe modern rendering technology can positively impact regulatory operations. And we've been trying to keep it light to the eye. It's 3:40, 3:50 here in Belgium now, so we realize you've been staring at the screen for a while now. We are convinced that data is becoming increasingly important in the submission process, and Remco Munnik tomorrow will talk about this during the sessions. But at the same time, like mentioned in the previous session around eCTD in China, the PDF format is not dead. It has a future for many years to come in pharma. Today, 80 countries are still submitting on paper, and many of those will likely adopt some form of PDF-based submission format in the future. We believe there's still big efficiency gains to be made in the creation of PDF in the submission process, and we would like to contribute to that. When we look at how most pharmaceutical companies are creating compliant PDF prior to submission, or in any other phase of the document lifecycle, we typically see this kind of process. And this image is taking a Word file as an example, but it is similar for most other files as well. Where does the process start? On the left hand of the slide, well, the first step is to connect to the system where the data or the document resides. Can be any document management system, such as Documentum, SharePoint, Cara, Viva, or any regulatory information management system, and we of course hope that is Lorenz. Next, as a next step, the Word file is retrieved, and the rendering system calls upon the application that created the document. So the authoring application can be Word, Excel, PowerPoint. That application is subsequently opened in the background, and the process is started to print this document to PDF, often via PostScript file first. Next, that PDF file is sent back to the ECM or the RIM platform where the rendition is stored. Word or the other application is then closed, and the process repeats for the next document. That's how things are done the old way. And in life, doing things the old way has a lot of charm. In rendering, doing things the old way, it has its drawbacks. But before we dive further in our experiences, let me clarify what we will share now today is definitely not happening at your company. Definitely not at your company. It's only at other companies we've worked with. So what did we learn? Well, in most companies, once a document has been finalized by the authors, it is being queued into a system for rendition to create the PDF. So far, so good. And what we see afterwards, however, is that this rendition is a general rendition, which is a kind of good enough rendition. And this good enough rendition is then manually altered to meet the requirements of the various health authorities, as they all have their preferences on how they want to receive their documents. So a lot of manual treatment, room for errors, and of course, compliance risk. And in this example, the original PDF needs to be adapted to FDA, PMDA, and EMEA specifications. As a consequence, most organizations wait until very late into the process to create technically compliant PDFs. So, oh, hang on. So we've been in touch with over 200 companies in pharma, large and small. Now we've learned a lot about their submission process, the role that PDF plays and the challenges that they encounter on a daily basis. And manual interventions, low value add work was one of the challenges that was mentioned a lot. And not only the manual work is slow, but also the systems that do these renditions add to the slowness. Remember how I explained the old way a few minutes ago? Opening and closing the original application, printing the postscript, closing the application. This is, well, it is very slow. Next to that, not only slow, but the process also eats up a lot of computer power, processing power, memory, and storage. And all of this adds to the total cost of the solution. Not only that, in the background, there's also a team taking care of this, making sure this process runs smoothly. Usually you don't notice, as they do their thing in silence. Now, if this would be a linear process, steady going, we might be able to cope, but unfortunately, it is not. Preparing thousands of documents prior to submission is not a steady process. It has peaks where a lot of documents are ready, and generally these peaks come when time is precious. So what we noticed is that most organizations, they dimensioned and often also over-dimensioned this system for maximum load at all times. So, which is great because it's resource intensive and thus costly. So when you're using the above method, experience learns that this creates what we call so-called memory leaks. And I can talk about or relate to memory leaks because at the age of 50, you can relate to that. And this causes systems to halt and requires manual intervention to restart processes, to push buttons, to lose time. What we've seen as well, that there's high costs involved in this. Rendering causes costs in areas you would not expect. Like often fonts need to be procured for the rendering servers, and these fonts, they don't come cheap. For large organizations, we have seen amounts in excess of €100,000 per font. Also, indirect licensing costs can be huge. In one case in the United States, we saw a company paying $800,000 to Microsoft only for the benefits of using the Office applications for rendering. Now, all of these costs might not be charged to your department directly, so maybe you don't care that much, but I'm sure that somebody in procurement cares about this. Next, conventional document rendering requires infrastructure, a lot of IT infrastructure, meaning servers, memory, storage, and often those are just sitting idle most of the time. They were designed for peak moments to deal with the amounts of documents that come in just prior to submission. So far, actually, for the bad news, the good news that today there are alternatives. There are ways of doing this whole background process in a different way, completely differently. So what we will do next is we will share learnings from a multinational pharmaceutical company that has a global presence. Starting point here was that they have a setup where they were using different software tools in the United States and Japan and other parts of the world. The US documents were rendered to FDA specs or specifications using one tool. Japanese documents were rendered in another tool. PMDA specs that are slightly different to the FDA specs, etc. So you can see it coming. There's a lot of manual steps leading to multiple document repositories due to the above. Over the next few minutes, we will share how modern rendering has impacted regulatory operations drastically, with the end result, one global repository from which documents can be rendered globally with significant less manual effort required. So I hope you're still with me, and how can we simplify this process? Well, actually, the starting point here is the same document or a set of documents in the queue. Depending on the characteristics of the document, a logic is defined, and this logic defines where the document goes next. In case of a single PDF required only for one health authority, the document is automatically routed through the FDA rendering path, which you can see above. For example, as an example, where specific to FDA specs rendition is created. Same thing for those documents for EMEA or PMDA specifications. And for multi-region content, there were multiple PDFs are needed. For all required health authorities, a global route can be taken with different renditions as a result. So, well, what is your benefit to all of this? The PDFs can be generated all at once and making a global simultaneous submission much easier. There's less manual work, there's less chances to make a mistake, and as a consequence, there's less risk to non-compliance or refusal to file. More importantly, and this is what customers tell us, working this way can bring technical compliance earlier in the process. And how? Well, let's look how this is done and what we mean by that. When an author creates a document, and then stores it in a document repository. From there, a PDF is created, and that PDF is then manually changed using PDF tools like DXC or ISI Toolbox. Multiple versions are created and stored in the document repository. From there on, the document is published and the compliant PDF is created, which means actually that the technical validation, meaning is this a compliant PDF, only happens at the very end, at the end stage. Modern rendering is much faster and can be built into the process at a much earlier phase. So as a result, technically compliant PDFs can be done automatically after the author or as soon as the author is done with its work. Moving compliance earlier in the process. That way, you achieve technical compliance and validate as soon as the initial rendition is created. Okay, so how do we make this possible? What is needed to do this? What is needed to bring this speed? Well, we want to simplify. Raul also talked about simplification in the Lorenz suite of products. We do the same for rendering. And DocShifter recognizes automatically all incoming file formats. And it does the conversion actually without the application that created the document in the first place. So without opening Word or Excel or PowerPoint. And because of that, the speed gains are enormous. The impact of all of this, one of our customers, a global pharmaceutical company, they went from 3,000 documents a day to over 4,000 documents per hour in their environments. So performance increase of 1,100%, and of course, a drastic impact on the overall total cost of ownership. And it's actually not only in the speed. As stated earlier, document rendering is a process that is very sensible to peak loads. There are many times where there's not a lot of documents that are being transformed, and there are other moments in time where a lot of documents all need to go through at the same time. In modern architecture, and that is specifically for the IT nerds amongst us, it runs on Docker and Kubernetes. What does this mean for us normal folks? Well, it means infinite scalability and the possibility to scale up or down when you need it, resulting in much lower IT cost overall and a much leaner approach. So, in summary, modern rendering technology allows digital file format conversion across the whole organization. It connects to all systems out there, whether there are document management systems, regulatory information management systems, SharePoint sites, marketing material, basically all divisions, everybody that needs document rendering. And more importantly, all of this is done in the background with as little as possible human intervention. And also without the authors even knowing or realizing that this is going on. Document conversions are lightning fast, even when there are many due to peak moments or like right prior to a submission. And of course, conversions are high quality and compliant to the highest or latest specification of the regulatory authorities. The PDF format has an important place in the pharmaceutical industry for many years to come. And when we see today how file format conversion is done, we also see that there is room for improvement, because we really want you to focus on the important stuff. So we're reaching the end of the presentation here. We have no doubt that your submission process is rock solid. There's no doubt. You have the tools in place, you have the right people, you're doing all the right things. But maybe, just maybe, it is time to ask yourself, is document rendering the weak spot, or is there room for improvement in that area? Well, in case you would like to find out more, we've written together with our experts, with the experts on the team, we've written a number of white papers on this topic, and you can find those definitely on our website, www.docshifter.com. Also, for those of you on the call that are interested in the subject, we're setting up a brief webinar on October 21st that will go into more details on the subjects discussed today. Thank you very much for your time and attention. Again, thank you, Raul. Thank you, Lorenz team, for the opportunity to be here today. We hope you enjoy the rest of this Lorenz event, and thank you for joining our session. We're very much open to answer any question that you might have after this presentation. Thank you very much.
Okay, so thank you from my side as well. Thank you for this very interesting talk and showing us some new insights. Before we start, before we end the session, I want to ask you some questions which were raised right now in the chat. The first question which might be pretty interesting is, what are the other use cases of modern rendering in life sciences? So do you have any other experiences in life sciences, especially for rendering?
Yeah. Okay. Do you want me to answer that right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so other use cases in rendering, there are actually quite a few. I focused very much on submission content and right prior to a regulatory submission. But if you think of archiving, we have a number of customers that are right now archiving millions of documents into a solid archive, and they want to transform their content to a format that can withstand the test of time. So a format like PDF-A in various shapes or forms. So archiving is definitely one. Another one that comes to mind is in correspondence tracking, when there's a lot of communication going back and forth between the regulatory authorities via email. One of the use cases for document rendering is also that incoming emails are monitored and then automatically transformed into PDF and added to a correspondence management system. So that's a use case that we've seen a lot. And also in life sciences, there's a lot of mergers and acquisitions. And sometimes in a merger and acquisition, there's a a whole lot of documents that need to go from one company to another, or a partnership agreement. So those hundreds of thousands, millions of files, that is probably the time to standardize documents. So that is another use case that we have come across. So yeah, there's many more than just regulatory submissions, archiving, correspondence tracking. In case of mergers and acquisitions, we see that a lot. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for this great answer. Yeah, I think the other answers might take a bit too long. Questions might take a bit too long. So again, I would ask you to, if you have any other questions, contact us directly. So we will forward the questions, or use here the possibility Red showed you on his slide, and contact him directly. We will be, I think we will both, we'll be happy to answer your questions and help you with your thoughts about this. So for this, I want to thank you all for your attendance. Thank you again for your talk and for the very nice answer, and have a nice rest of the day.
Thank you very much.